Hey guys, what's up and welcome back to my channel. So today we're going to be talking about Danny Masterson. Now, this is something I've wanted to talk about for a while, but I just felt like there wasn't that much out there. Today there is quite a bit to be discussed. Now, if you don't know who Danny Masterson is, I think he's best known for that 70s show. He was the character Hyde. That's what he got most famous for. He's also known to be, I don't know if he currently still is, a Scientologist, so that in and of itself is a lot of information to take in just because of the implications that come along with Scientology, which are all typically extremely alarming. Anyway, I came across a few articles that were talking about what was going on with Danny Masterson right now. We're gonna get into it, but I am gonna put a trigger warning here. This involves rape, assault of sorts as well. So if that's something you're not comfortable with, I would stop right here. Danny Masterson's lawyers give opening statements at rape trial, claiming victim coordination. During opening statements at his trial for allegedly raping 3 women, attorneys for That 70s Show actor Danny Mastersons claimed the charges are so similar because the women cross-pollinated their stories. Now, I already kind of think this is an insidious thing. Now, granted, in the grand scheme of things, can people all lie and coordinate their stories to lie? Yes. On the flip side, though, you could also say that the reason that there are commonalities is maybe because you use the same tactic on different people. I don't know how that proves anything, that the stories are similar. If anything, I think that makes it sound worse for you, just because how many times have we seen abusers, rapists, murderers have the same general strategy, routine, whatever you want to call it? That's not unusual by any means. That doesn't mean that the victims all spoke to each other and coordinated some mass lie, especially something that happened 20 years ago, but we'll get into it. A prosecutor on Tuesday described rape allegations by 3 women against That 70s Show actor Danny Masterson from 2 decades ago that contained some of the same disturbing elements. 2 women became woozy or passed out after a couple drinks and were tossed in his hot tub. Deputy District Attorney Reinhold Mueller said in his opening statement in Masterson's trial. One of them said he dragged her to his bed where she regained consciousness to find him having sex with her. A third woman, an ex-girlfriend, said she woke up to find him on top of her. Masterson's lawyer said the reasons the allegation had so much in common is that the alleged victims violated detectives' warning not to speak with each other and had quote-unquote cross-pollinated their accounts and undermined their credibility. If you speak to each other, you will contaminate this case, they were told, defense attorney Philip Cohen said in Los Angeles Superior Court. Speaking to each other and other witnesses is fatal to a case. Masterson, 46, has pleaded not guilty to 3 counts of forcible rape between 2001 and 2003 at his Hollywood home, which functioned as a social hub when he was at the height of his fame. Obviously, to be completely clear, I can understand why they wouldn't want victims talking to each other specifically, so then there couldn't be a claim of, hey, they shared stories and one was affected by the other, or one randomly remembered something that happens to also be in the other story. Like, I can understand how Masterson's defense could try and use that against them. At the same time, I also don't think it's weird. Like, if I were a victim, I'd probably want to talk to the other victims who went through something similar, so I see both sides of that. I just hope it doesn't end up in someone guilty allegedly walking free. Cohen urged the jurors not to consider Masterson's affiliation with the Church of Scientology and its relationship to the case, while Mueller said that it helped explain why the women, all former members of the church, waited so long to report the incidents. 2 of the alleged victims first went to the church to report what happened to them and were told it wasn't rape and that reporting it to authorities or telling others about it would end with them being ostracized by their closest friends and even family members. You essentially become an enemy of the church, Mueller said. You lose it all. Now, this really bothered me because I don't really think you can leave Scientology out of it. For one, Scientology is notorious for so many reasons at this point, but there are so many issues within Scientology that align with this, that align with abuse generally, that align with assault. So to take Scientology completely out of the equation, I don't think is an accurate picture of what happened, because whether or not you consider Scientology a bad thing or a good thing in very broad terms, you can't pretend that this cult basically has nothing to do with it. Like, if they're part of it automatically, that's even just in terms of the setting, who you're around, who you see every day, the people you interact with. How can you just take that out? Especially with something like Scientology that is so all-encompassing. It's not like you go to church once a week, you see people, and then goodbye. I feel like it's so much bigger than that, like a lifestyle, a little world within our world that is entirely their own. There's a reason that you basically get shunned once you leave. Like, people don't want to talk to you, can't really talk to you. How many times have we seen people who are followed by Scientologists with cameras to basically harass them? I've watched too much shit about Scientology to say that it's fair to leave that out of the question, because it's not just a religion. and I think it's silly to pretend that's all it is. Cohen said the case had nothing to do with the religion, and he repeatedly objected when it was brought up. Superior Court judge sternly reminded the lawyers that Scientology would not dominate the trial. The trial's witness list is full of members and former members of the church, which has a strong presence in Los Angeles and has counted many famous figures amongst its members. So there are plenty of famous people, but one that is particularly relevant is one of the women had been Masterson's longtime girlfriend, another was best friends with his personal assistant, and the third, an actress, was a newer acquaintance. The friend of his assistant filed a police report because she was unhappy with the way Scientology Ethics Board handled her complaint. No charges were brought at the time. In 2016, she connected and shared stories with the ex-girlfriend who is one of the accusers. Each filed a police report that year. Masterson's former girlfriend said she did so after telling her story to her husband, who helped her understand she had been raped. The third woman went to the police in 2017. Cohen said the heart of the defense was a sizzle reel of inconsistencies between what the women initially said and how their accounts changed over time. One thing I do want to point out here is, as much as it's understandable that in a case people might raise their eyebrows if a story changes, speaking from experience, with things that are traumatic, sometimes you don't even realize, like here, allegedly, what happened to you until you tell someone else and they're like, that not only was not okay, that only was not appropriate, that did not respect your boundaries, that did not respect your right to consent or not consent. There are so many things that can happen that you don't even realize are fucked up until someone else tells you. So the changing of a story, especially something that happened a long time ago, something that might have happened also when you were too young to really understand the implications, I don't think that's super weird. Especially, I mean, I don't know what the dynamics were between all three women and Masterson, but if he was at the height of his fame, I don't think that also can be completely ignored, because if these women were fans, already the power imbalance there is something to be kept into account. There's so many things, so it doesn't really super shock me that the stories might change, because your account is going to be different based on your perception of what happened to you. If you think that you simply had a bad encounter with someone, as opposed to being violated and assaulted, your account's going to be very different, but the base facts might very well be the same. Does that compute? Does that make sense to someone other than me? A woman who said she was raped after passing out from drinking some of a fruity red vodka drink Masterson gave her told police she had consensual sex with him several months earlier under similar circumstances. She now says that she didn't consent. Masterson doesn't face charges over those allegations. Another alleged victim went to Masterson's house after he invited her over. She set ground rules that she wouldn't have sex with him and told him no sex multiple times as fooling around progressed. Mueller said. He described Masterson's alleged assault as being so forceful that the woman vomited in her mouth and was limp like a rag doll. But Cohen asserted the woman stayed in bed with Masterson for hours, talking and listening to music, and thought, "We'll probably start dating after she left." He said she was dismayed when Masterson didn't call or text her. The former girlfriend said that after she broke up with Masterson, she had consensual sex with him 2 other times. If convicted, Masterson could face up to 45 years in prison. The Associated Press does not typically name people who say they were victims of sexual abuse unless they come forward publicly. Masterson was one of the first Hollywood figures to be charged in the #MeToo era. His is one of several high-profile sexual assault cases that have gone to trial around the 5th anniversary of the reporting of accusations against Hollywood mogul Harvey Weinstein, which transformed the #MeToo movement into an international reckoning. From 1998 until 2006, Masterson starred as Stephen Hyde on Fox's That 70s Show, which made stars of Ashton Kutcher, Mila Kunis, and Topher Grace, and is getting an upcoming Netflix reboot with That 90s Show. Masterson has reunited with Kutcher on the Netflix comedy The Ranch, but was written off the show when LAPD investigation was revealed in December 2017. I have to say, it doesn't look good in terms of Masterson, simply because, first of all, the commonalities, and I mean, the victims could have shared, but I don't really know what would drive people to make up a story from 20 years ago. I don't know what they'd be expecting to get out of that. Like, why wait all that long? I definitely think this is going to be a difficult case simply because this happened so long ago, and it's understandable why the victims would not have wanted to come forward. This is definitely going to be something I'm following, because I do think that when something happened over such a large span of time ago, it's so difficult to have someone convicted, especially generally speaking, not even just about this case, but rape cases are so difficult because how many times do we see people go free? How many times is there not enough evidence? Which, I mean, of course you need evidence, but also if you think of the situation, it's like when something's happening to you, your first thought isn't, oh, let me do X, Y, or Z so I have this physical proof that X, Y, and Z happened. So this is all that's out there right now. I'm gonna keep reading up on this to see how things progress. I definitely want to see if anything else comes up against Masterson or even against these women, if there even is anything. I'm sure Masterson's defense will try to come up with something. Like, the victims talking to each other obviously has already done its own damage, because if even the detective said not to, it's going to be harder from here on out. But I do want to see what occurs and what conclusions are also drawn by the public, because I haven't really seen that many people talking about it. Now, granted, there isn't some big conclusion to be discussed here yet, but nonetheless, it's something that has spanned over time. So I even wonder if anyone else is going to come forward, because these things happened between 2001 and 2003, if I'm not wrong. So I'm just wondering if there is a pattern, because a lot of the times when we see things like this happen, if there was an assault, a lot of the times the assaulter is not a first-time assaulter. And obviously here there are 3 people who are claiming to be assaulted, so there's already that. But I'm wondering, in the years after that, did something else happen, and is it simply a case of people not coming forward to discuss those things? Anyways, guys, you can let me know what you think in the comments down below. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you to my patrons as always, and I'll catch you guys next time.